Hey guys, real quick, I know this video is super long, so I took the liberty of breaking the video up into several segments. So if you're a newer player and like to see card timing and effect clarifications, click up here. If you're interested in the recent nerf to Vegeta, click right here. If you want to get the lowdown on the Namekian nerf, which everyone's talking about, click over here. If Ginyu is your thing and you want to know about our current opinions about his state in the game, click down here. And for other minor card effect clarifications and changes, click right here. Otherwise, enjoy the video. It's a great video. We had a lot of fun making it. And check out our new Facebook page in the description. Greetings, Internet. Didier here, and it's January 1st, 2015. It is New Year's Day, and what better way to spend our New Year's Day than recording a Dragon Ball Z video?
Yep, we're actually still in the clothes we wore the night before. Didier's got some nice bedhead. We did the Walk of Shame Dunkin' Donuts this morning. America runs on Dunkin'. We're joining each other today. We're going to talk about some of the updates to the CRD, some clarifications, some Namekian.
We're going to be taking a look at the CRD update. Panini recently posted a new CRD with some clarifications and, well, some nerfs, for lack of a better word, to namely Namekian and Vegeta. Also some gameplay clarifications, some timing clarifications, so we're just going to go over all of those and
see what happens.
Not see what happens.
No,
we're not going to see what happens.
I'd like to see what happens.
We're doing a damn video. Like, we're not
We're going to be active. We're going to talk about the rules. We're going to talk about clarifications. We're going to talk about order of effects.
One of the major clarifications in the CRD as far as effects are concerned is playing versus placing into play. Now this affects a lot of cards in the game.
Two big styles are orange and Namekian. Namekian for putting Dragon Balls out and orange for putting out drills.
So basically what I like, the way that I like to think about these two words in my head is playing the word means that you're actually playing it from your hand. It's like you have the card and you're playing it from your hand and you resolve all the effects on the card. You pay any associated costs and any requirements and you get, it's like just playing the card from your hand. Whereas placing into play is kind of like the card magically appearing into play. Kind of like you're waving your magic wand and
shaking your dick out of it.
Or wishing upon the dragon to have the card appear in play.
And the clan. Don't forget the dragon clan. I'm wishing with the clan. So, just some notable differences. Orange Devouring Drill has to have you play a drill, so you pretty much have to naturally draw it, play it during your setup step. Or, in the case of Orange Escape, it's the only card that lets you play a drill from your hand to put it into play and triggers Orange Devouring Drill. All of Goku's powers, Orange PowerPoint, Orange Truck Lift, the Mastery, I call it Orange Trunks Guardian Drill, they all place it into play, not triggering Orange Devouring Drill. So it's an important notable difference. Also with the Namekian cards, there's only one card, is it just the setup? I think just the Namekian setup actually plays the Dragon Ball. Any other card, all the attacks just place the Dragon Ball into play. It's a very big difference because you don't get the effects of any of them.
Yeah, so if you use like Namekian Palm Shots, for example, it's still a really strong card because it allows you to draw a card from the bottom of your deck if it hits, and you gain an anger when you shuffle the Dragon Ball into your life deck. But when you place the Dragon Ball, when you search for in your life deck for another Dragon Ball and place it into play, you're not going to be getting the effect for the Dragon Ball.
Something else we want to talk about is damage prevention versus damage modification. Cards and effects that modify damage do not necessarily prevent them, i.e. Orange Hiding Drill. It's a damage modification to all attacks. So a card that is unstoppable or unpreventable would still be able to be modified by cards such as Orange Hiding Drill. It's not a prevention effect like Endurance is, or was it Red Blazing Aura that reduces your... No, that's a modification too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this is another example like Orange Hiding Drill. It modifies the damage, it doesn't prevent it. So
right.
It can still happen.
An example from the old game would be Master Roshi's Master Roshi Sensei. Roshi Sensei reduced the damage from all your opponent's attacks by 1 life card. So if you would perform an energy attack that did 5 life cards, it would do 4, but if you did a physical attack, it would not be affected by it because it does power stages and not life cards.
You calculate damage to deal, and it modifies it before you actually take the damage. Prevention happens as you're taking damage. Damage modification happens during the calculation step. That's why it's a difference.
Yeah, so when you're preventing with Endurance, the damage has already been calculated. So any power stages would be converted to life cards at that point.
Damage modifications do not apply when power stages are converted to life cards because you've already calculated how many power stages the attack would have dealt.
So another thing that they clarified in the CRD are the order of effects when you play a card. We just wanted to go over those and clarify each step in each order that effects occur. So the first thing that you're going to do when you play a card is you're going to pay any cost of the card. Mostly this is for energy attacks. Energy attacks cost power stages usually. But if the card has any associated costs, you'll have to pay them as soon as you play the card. The second thing you're going to do is any immediate effects on the card. Or for old players out there, secondary effects. Which just means that any effects on the card that are just stated that happen immediately.
Right after you pay the costs for the said card.
Exactly. The third thing that happens is once you play your card and you pay the costs, use immediate effects, your opponent is then allowed to play one defense action. Now this means a defensive power, a defensive card from their hand, or activating a defensive drill, or using a defensive setup.
And then they also use their immediate actions or immediate effects, similar to secondary effects, on whatever card they're using to block, or whatever the card they're using during that phase, so to speak, doing the block.
Now it's important to note here that you can only have one defensive action. So if, for example, you would perform an attack on your opponent, he would use Time as a Warrior's tool, and you would use Villainous Energy Sphere to stop the effects of his Time as a Warrior's tool. He could not use another defense in his phase, because you can only play one defensive action. After you've allowed your opponent to play a defense, you then calculate and deal your damage. So you look at the attack chart and compare your power level to your opponent if your attack does AT damage. You apply any modifiers, and then your opponent takes any power stages and life cards of damage and prevents any of your damage if he has either endurance or any other prevention effects.
So then, as you're taking the damage, during the, I guess, damage taking step, whatever you want to call it, and you determine how much damage it's actually doing, you would at that point determine if and when it does critical damage. Not to use the effect, but just to determine at that point if it did enough damage to do a critical effect.
Right, so if an effect said when you deal critical damage, that effect would happen at this time, because at that moment when you hit 5 life cards is when you deal critical damage.
Yes.
After the attack has become successful and you've dealt your damage, you then use hit effects. So any effect on your card that says hit and then has an after text, you'll use that effect at this time after your opponent has taken his damage.
Then after you use the hit effects, at that point then, if you previously determined that you did deal critical damage, after you use your hit effects, you can then use your critical damage effects in any order that you choose if you have multiple effects. Okay,
so that's all the real big like gameplay clarifications and rule clarifications that we wanted to do from the CRD. The next changes that we wanted to talk about were card changes, card nerfs mostly. We wanted to talk about, of course, Namekian style. So we'll start off. One of the big changes that they made was to Vegeta. They took away the ability for his level 2 and level 3 power to trigger off of any attacks that gain anger not immediately. So anything that has a hit effect or some condition to gain the anger, you can't gain it with his power.
It's a subtle change, but it is noticeable. I mean, it makes him a lot more viable in Saiyan than Red. Didier is running a Red version. He has been for a while, since it came out pretty much, but I don't think it nerfs the deck, but it does change the way it plays significantly.
Oh no, it definitely nerfs the deck.
It nerfs it?
Oh yes, absolutely, because...
To the point where you would consider changing it?
To the point where I would consider dismantling it, which I already have, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I changed actually my Red Vegeta to Red Ginyu for this reason, because, you know, in my deck alone, 6 cards were affected. You know, Red Static Shot and Red Frenzied Blast. Both of those cards are energy attacks that have hit gain 2 anger, and Static Shot is even more amazing because it makes your opponent not be able to use endurance. So it's definitely definitely going to be included in that deck, but it just makes it packed a lot less of a punch now. Now that's not affected by either of his powers. It kind of shifts Vegeta's focus from, I wouldn't say that he was an energy-based deck, but I think he could kind of go either way. He could play both sides a little bit because he had strong modifiers with his 2 and 3. Yeah. With this change, he's kind of more shifted towards a physical personality because a lot of the energies are successful or hit gain anger, so they're not affected by his power anymore. So it makes him you kind of say to yourself, okay, I have to build a physical deck because I won't get big, powerful, beefy energies to play. Yeah. But the physical options right now are just really lacking.
They don't have a lot of... Vegeta doesn't have a lot of base. He needs the mods, so it wouldn't be terrible, but his base isn't really good until you get to like 3 or 4, comparatively to like Trunks or Frieza, or hell, even Ginyu is stronger on his level 1 and 2, I think.
Yeah, just the physical options that gain anger right now just don't pack a punch. You have
physical plus
lightning,
physical
plus, and AT, just
AT.
Basically. Yeah, a lot of them.
Do I want to do damage? Do I want to gain the anger? I don't think you ran a lot of energies, but you did run energies to the point where your energies were doing like physical stages of damage to me. In a lot of our matches, because they were just fucking energies that gain anger, so he was leveling up, chaining level 2 and 3, still doing energies that just did stages of damage.
Because using the energies to do stages of damage, you can energy attack them, get them to 0. Vegeta has a fairly low base, so you'll be doing stages and lowering their base to make your base more effective.
Mm-hmm. It's important to note that because of the way the Saiyan Mastery is worded, he still works in Saiyan, not that he didn't before, but it still works very good with his powers now, because the way the Saiyan Mastery is worded is that all of your attacks gain the text, raise your anger 1 level. So because it's worded that way, it becomes an immediate effect or a secondary effect on the actual card you're playing, so it will affect every Saiyan attack you do with him if you have a Saiyan build.
Definitely. So Vegeta, right now, I don't think he's usable in red anymore. I think he's kind of a Saiyan-only personality, at least until Set 2 comes out.
Yeah, we'll see what that is. So, Namekian is a big thing that got changed recently. It got nerfed at the wazoo. At first glance, I didn't think it was a big difference.
Yeah, he fought me on this.
We went back and forth a little bit. So one of the things to note is the wording change. So it's when your card effects rejuvenate or shuffle cards in. So if the opponent confrontations you, you don't get to raise your anger anymore.
Which is a minor change.
Yeah, it was a novelty. But the biggest thing that I've noticed that I didn't recognize at first how much it would impact the deck, sure, when you pass and rejuvenate, you can't gain the anger outside of combat. Before there was no downside to passing, you could just slime anger, so to speak, gain an anger or 2 or here. Not a whole lot, but maybe 5 to 6 anger a game in general, because you could just pass, hold a card, rejuvenate, and that anger would add up. I mean, 5 or 6 anger a game is a level right there. But most notably, because the effect happens only during combat, a big change I notice is that the Dragon Balls, specifically Dragon Ball 5 now, if you naturally draw it and play it during your setup phase, it doesn't get you to anger anymore, which kind of blows. You could do that and enter and get a level quickly. Now you have to manipulate it during combat to get the extra anger from the rejuvenation effect, which makes it a little trickier to play with. You have to run Dragon Raider, you have to run Namekian Dragon Clan to pop out 5 during combat to get the maximum benefit now.
Yeah, not that you weren't playing those before, but there are only, basically we're saying there's only 2 ways you can get the full potential of that card now, and that's by playing it during combat with either of those 2 cards. I think a big point here about Namekian, the Namekian change is twofold, is that you're not gaining anger passively when you're just rejuvenating anymore. So this means that you're not going to be starting combat with anger anymore. You're only going to be really gaining anger inside combat.
I think just about every Namekian player would always pass the first turn just because there's no reason not to. You could already start the actual turn or your first combat having 1 anger, having a card in your discard pile ready to rejuvenate to get another anger. You're almost setting yourself up for 2 anger right away, first turn.
The Namekian cards right now, most of them are only raising 1 anger, a single anger. Yeah, there are a few that gain multiple anger, like Namekian Right Throw, that if you shuffle a Dragon Ball, you gain 3 anger. But outside of that, there's not many more. So taking away the ability to start combat with 1 or 2 anger, you know, we only have 4 card hands, so you're gaining 1 anger singly from each card. That's 4 anger. Now that you don't start the combat with an anger anymore,
true. Yeah.
You're not gaining that level innately with your cards.
Generally, yeah. There's no. I don't think there's any Namekian card that has an immediate effect gains anger actually. So they can only gain. I can't think of any card that actually gains a secondary anger. shy of a block, but no attack or no offensive card. Even if each 4 of those cards has a rejuvenation effect, you're only getting 4 anger. You're not going to get that first turn level unless you can whip something out, or unless you have the stages to do every attack in your hand plus Piccolo's level 1 power.
Right, yeah.
That actually brings us to the next point we were talking about. So I think a lot of people online feel that Piccolo is better in Namekian than Gohan would be. With this change, it definitely hurts Gohan more than Piccolo, because Piccolo's level 1 at least has a built-in rejuvenation effect. Gohan's level 1 kind of mills himself. It helps you set up to have cards to rejuvenate, don't get me wrong, and it helps mat damage, but at the same time, it's a lot easier now in Gohan to get stuck on his 1 and his 3, because if you want to anger out, his level 3 in Namekian kind of blows. No, it's a physical for like 6 stages and then lower your anger. You're never, if you want to win by MPPV, you're not going to want to lower your anger.
The power has some strength.
I'd rather be in his level 2 that adds 2 life cards to all your attacks, personally.
I mean, okay, so if you think about it this way, the level 2, if you do 4 attacks, it's only styled attacks, first of all.
True.
If you do 4 attacks, that's 8 damage. His physical does 6 damage, and it has the potential to do much more damage by lowering your anger.
Alright, I get that.
The point here with Gohan is that this change to Namekian, it's elongating the time that you're spending on the earlier levels, especially level 1. Because, you know, Namekian has a lot slower start now. They're not gaining the anger from rejuvenation, so they're going to have to set up more combos in combat in order to level. So you'll be sitting on level 1 for a longer period of time, and you'll, well, be sucking wind, basically, because his level 1 is not only his weakest level, but it is probably the weakest level in the game right now. It's just weak in terms of power level, weak in terms of PUR, and it hurts yourself to possibly do more damage to the opponent.
Yep.
Another point with the Namekian nerf, I know a lot of people think it wasn't a big nerf, but I do think it was a fairly large, substantial nerf. However needed, Namekian was kind of a sweeping force in the meta. There was nothing that was stopping Piccolo and Namekian. It just leveled like no one's business. It just leveled.
Now, just play Ginyu. Everyone else does.
Oh yeah, why not?
Ginyu's, Chippy's BFG, big fucking tournament, whatever. Top 4 were all orange Ginyu.
Now, granted, that wasn't like 60% of the field Ginyu.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point.
He said like 60, no, I think maybe even higher, like 70 or 80% was Ginyu.
Well, I mean, if you have 70...
He said almost half of it was orange Ginyu. It was orange Ginyu, black Ginyu, blue Ginyu. Some kind of fucking Ginyu. Top 4 were all orange Ginyu. So, I mean, now with Namekian, I don't want to say not being viable, but Namekian definitely took a hit, more so than I originally thought. I mean, just play Ginyu. It's what everyone else is doing. As
a final point to the Namekian nerf, what you have to think about is total anger gain. How many times are you going to be passing and rejuvenating in a game? Probably about 4 or 5 times, would you say?
Like I said, yeah, on average it's probably 4 or 5, 6 times a game. That's a level right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you're talking about an entire level that they took away from Namekian. So, the proof is in the pudding.
I like pudding.
I like pudding, too.
Not tapioca. Never tapioca.
Okay, now that we've cried about Namekian for 10 minutes,
let's cry about Ginyu.
No. Let's cry about Ginyu for a second. They did make a change to Ginyu in the CRD, which made him, I'm not going to say beatable. I'm going to say combatable.
Well, I mean, yeah. The CRD correction, clarification, call it what you will, is that his level 3 and his level 4 just prevent the allies from being discarded by critical damage effects. Doesn't mean they're irremovable. So you can still use cards that banish them or destroy them specifically, but no longer can crits really do anything other than reduce their anger. 2 is almost a turbo 3, so you're going to get at least 2 to 3 anger from a level 2, if not more. So, I mean, once you get to 2, that's all you really need to do. Go from 2 to 3.
That's it. And then your allies are protected pretty much.
Yeah,
but now...
Take all the damage you want. Doesn't matter. Just don't run any blocks.
Right, yeah.
That's it. Just Goldo.
Yep, just Goldo. And that's really what Ginyu's problem is right now.
Alright, so he didn't want to do this, but I saw this online and I think it would be a good change to Ginyu. Compare Ginyu level 1 to Goku level 1. Goku level 1's attack is an energy costing 2, doing 3 life cards. Ginyu's cost 3, but does 5? Does 4?
4.
Does 4, okay. Comparatively though, Ginyu gets the ally out as a secondary effect. Okay? Yeah. Goku's has a hit effect just to be able to use it. And even when you use it, you have to ditch a card in your hand to be able to put a drill in play. Ginyu's, as a hit effect, lets you use the ally. So, you can always get an ally, there's no downside to it. You don't have to discard anything from your hand, so it's virtual hand advantage. Whereas Goku has to hit, he has to discard a card from his hand. When you look at it comparatively, what are you going to get with Goku? You're going to get one of the defense shield drills. You're going to get Orange Aura Drill. Comparatively, with Ginyu, you can put out Goldo, and then Ginyu's hit effect will let you use Goldo instantly without Ginyu being at 0, which is a 4-stage mod and a block. It can block a physical, block an energy. It does twice the damage mod that Orange Aura Drill does. It does 4 damage instead of 2. So when you just compare them, Goku's is a weaker attack. Yes, it only costs 2 stages, but that's negligible. You have to pitch a card. It has to be a hit effect just to even be able to try to use it. And at best, you're going to get either one card that blocks a specific type of attack or 1 damage mod. Goldo does everything in fucking 1. That is stupid.
Yeah, and if his power hits, you choose Goldo.
Yes.
And at any point, you can take control of Goldo and use his power to stop an attack.
Yep.
So it's like you're having this virtual block in your hand, a virtual Omni block, that adds 4 damage to all your attacks.
Ginyu has an attack, so that's card advantage right there, basically. He gets out Goldo, which is stage management, again, card advantage. But if it hits, you can use Goldo, which is a block, again, card advantage. And then it damage mods all of your attacks, switch back to Ginyu and do physicals, plus 4 damage apiece. So there's 4 instances there where you're basically getting virtual hand advantage. That's stupid. That's just stupid when you compare it to somebody like Goku, who has the only comparable level 1 right now, just from the effects, but it's so many conditions. A fix to Ginyu should be that it should be a hit effect, either make the ally searcher part a hit effect, and then just leave it at that, you know, hit, search your electric for an ally, place it in play, or they should make it stay the same, get the ally out secondary. The hit effect should be able to choose the ally, but the hit effect should include that you have to discard a card from your hand. It would at least make it somewhat manageable, so there is a bit of a downside to it. You're not still having 3 to 4 cards in your hand, plus a free block, plus a damage mod, plus an attack. That's just silly.
If you just compare Captain Ginyu for a second to the old game, to Bojack, you know, level 1 Bojack, he doesn't have an ally searcher. The only thing he has is that beautiful damage mod and the ability to take control with his allies when he wants. Ginyu's power kind of gives that in a way where it provides an ally searcher. If you get Goldo first turn and add that nice 4 damage to all your attacks, the only way Bojack's going to be getting that is if he gets all 4 of his allies.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You know, Bojack has to have all the allies to get that much damage effect. None of the allies have blocks. They're all attacks. And he doesn't have a built-in searcher. It's like putting a fucking ally searcher on Bojack. And then giving him more damage somehow.
Yeah,
yeah
so...
And a block. Yeah. It's fucking stupid.
So, I mean, we all know that Bojack is probably the strongest deck in Z, in Focus Z, at the end of Kid Buu Saga. So, if you just look at Bojack and the damage potential he has... Now, granted, Bojack has a lot of cards that manipulates the allies from the removed from the game pile. So, as the game progresses and... styles get more answers to allies and be able to remove them from the field, Ginyu will reduce in power, especially if first turn you...
Ginyu can reduce in power, but right now he just has the jump on so many decks. At least Bojack didn't have a built-in ally searcher. Bojack still had to use, you know, unexpected allies. He had to use...
Gathering of Heroes.
Gathering of Heroes, yeah. So Bojack at least had to draw into one of those, or I don't think most decks ran searchers to get those out, but they would draw those to get the ally searcher out. They didn't have Ginyu's level 1 every combat. And then if you get rid of him, he levels to 2, so he can get him back from the discard pile. For right now, with the card pool being so limited, he just got the early jump on every deck out there.
Yeah.
The only way you can beat Ginyu is by playing Ginyu.
Or play Blue Krillin.
Blue Krillin has a chance, yeah. Crit every turn. And then just don't let him get to level 3.
Right. So past those few fairly major changes that we just went over in terms of card nerfs, there were a few minor ones that we'd like to go over. Black Punishment was changed to, I mean, it was ridiculous.
Black Punishment, for those of you who don't know, was whenever a card would be banished or removed, period, that your opponent would mill one. We played in a sealed tournament up with Fashbinder, hey Dave, up in New York, and that card was just silly. I almost won a game just from that one card, because the opponent had like 3 or 4 attacks in their hand that all removed themselves from the game, and then I just used Endurance 1. So every time I took a life card of damage, I would prevent a life card of damage, so I'm cutting the damage he did to me in half, and making him mill one in the process. So it was funny because I would just do that and let him attack me and not block anything, and he would be milling it almost as much as I was taking in damage.
Yeah, so I mean, when it discarded a card from their deck, anytime a card was removed, you know, you could just remove cards for endurance and then just destroy your opponent in the process.
So now they changed it to whenever a card banishes itself after use, either you or your opponent. So it's not just when a card is banished, because it would be stupid.
So another change, or rather clarification in the CRD, was blue avoidance and blue swift block. They are, unlike, you know, we all remember Trunks swiftly and Goku swiftly moving from the old score game, and the difference between the two, Trunks swiftly moving copied your opponent's modifiers, so if they had drills out, like Devastation Drill, you would copy any of the damage from those drills when you perform the attack back. That was unlike Goku swiftly moving, that didn't copy modifiers, so it didn't matter what your opponent had on the field. It would just be like performing the card,
the same attack,
the exact same attack back to the opponent. So there's these two cards that are just performing the copy of the attack, so it's like you playing the card from your hand. So you use your power level for damage from the attack table, and you pay costs and everything. That's unlike the blue reverse card, which it does copy modifiers. It states it on the card.
Yes. I mean, it's a subtle change, but it's a change nonetheless. And if it's used against a card that says you can play to be used multiple times, like was it, say, an elbow drop? So you know, you're kind of almost creating an invisible virtual copy of the card that's in play for that time being. So you're just using that card itself, no other mods that the opponent has at the time.
Another clarification was heroes only and named cards are for deck construction only. Cards that this clarification majorly affects are Black Reflection and Black Disorienting Blow. Because those cards search your opponent's life deck and or banished pile to play cards and attacks that your opponent has. So if you were, example, a hero and used Black Disorienting Blow and tried to play Stare Down, which is villains only, you could do that because it's for deck construction purposes only. It's not for gameplay purposes.
There's no rule against playing a card, as weird as that may sound. There's just a rule that you can't build your deck with it in it.
Doing Black Reflection, do Goku's Kamehameha.
Goku's Kamehameha, if you got a drill or two out, why not?
And that's also important to know that Goku's Kamehameha can be performed by an ally. Goku does not have to Goku does not have to perform it.
Correct, yeah. Again, that's just for deck construction. Anybody can perform the attack once you draw it or get it into your hand. So Chi-Chi can do Goku's Kamehameha, or Goldo could do Frieza's Supernova.
Another fairly significant change, although it's a minor word change, is to Black Scout Maneuver. Now, I see Ryan shaking his head over there. They changed it so previously it was your opponent searched his life deck for the cards and removed them. Now it is you will be searching your opponent's life deck.
My only thing with that is Black already has searching technique, so you can still set it up by searching technique and then you know what to name for Black Scout. But now with Black Scout you can look through their deck so you can see what they're packing. So you know exactly what to name with your next Black Scout, which is, I think, I don't want to say unfair, but it gives it a subtle but noticeable difference when Black can run 3 Black Scouts. I mean, they already have searching technique. You can see the opponent's deck. Now you just know exactly what to name all the time.
But yeah, and so the final page of the CRD is their adding and removing of gold text to cards. So, and this is, I don't know, what do you feel about this, Ryan?
What were you thinking, Panini? You're just silly. I mean, gold text, we understand it is a point to like relate the new game to the old game. We get it. That idea failed miserably. I mean, when half the cards that were on the gold text list are now not off the gold text list because players pointed out, well, you didn't make this a gold text, why'd you make this a gold text? We're debating what the difference was between orange PowerPoint. The only difference is that the old card text said if successful, the new card text says hit. Like, I get it. I don't care. I just don't care. It's the same thing.
Yeah, there were. It wasn't reduced by half. It was reduced by about a third. There were 17 cards originally on the list, and now there are 11. They reduced the list by 6.
I suggest you guys don't try to institute this in the second.
You just made so many small modifications to the wording that it's very difficult to have a line between the old game and the new game.
Banish and destroy versus remove from the game. I mean, players who want to play the old game, want to play the new game, we're not going to mix the cards. I mean, it's just ridiculous if you try to. Josh Man, I think, actually posted orange Goku deck list online that just looks stupid when you use the new mastery and orange rapid attack, and the physical attacks that'll put drills out, orange truck lift, orange car push, but that brings us to the effect of like the gold text. Like, what the hell do we do with it? I mean, if we're doing an actual expanded game, are we going to use the old Z MRP rules where the most recent printing is the correct one? So we use the new orange PowerPoint instead of the old orange PowerPoint? Or are we going to say, since they don't have gold text anymore, that they're different cards because they're not the same? Can I have 6 orange PowerPoints in my deck? Can I have 6 black scout maneuvers and 6 black searching techniques?
Yeah.
Just make the most ridiculously teched out deck possible?
So realistically, I mean, we are kind of hating on it. It did kind of fail because if you want to integrate the 2 games, you're gonna have to make another list, right?
Yeah.
The list is not right. It's not the correct list.
You're gonna have a merger CRD just so you know what to do. I mean, I have 3 black searching techniques that are setups. I have 3 black searching techniques that are non-combats. 2 different card mechanics. Come on.
The ultimate control
The
deck.
ultimate control. 6 black scout maneuvers. Fuck it, why not make it 9? Make Cosmic Anthologies a different set also. So I'll have 9 black scout maneuvers. Why not? Just a whole deck. 59 black scout maneuvers. 1 attack. That's it. That's all my deck is. Time. That's it. 59 scouts. Time. I'm bitter. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You can tell that we're old players of the game because we take all of these things kind of personally, so...
It's funny. I mean, again, I know what you're doing. We're hating on it a little bit. It was a cute idea, but just don't bother with it. I mean, you're going to dig yourself deeper a hole if you try to do it in set 2. So, you know, it was cute. It failed. Move on. It was like Epic Battles. Oh! Actually, Epic Battles was cool. Case Closed was awful. Remember demoing that at the one con?
I don't even remember that game.
We helped demo. They taught us how to demo. It took them like 2 hours to teach us how to demo a game, and then when kids came up, we would shoo them away. Be like, "Kid, don't."
Yeah, you don't.
It's a
want
45-minute demo. Get out of here.
We just give them the promos.
You don't want to sit here. Yeah, just shut up. Move on.
Maybe that's why Score failed.
Among other things.
Because I mean, you know, actually, no, we know why.
Well,
let's not go into that.
That's our opening to the new year. That's our kind of reflection on the CRD in set 1. We did an intro, various videos. You can click on the links all around, see the videos we posted. But this is kind of a recap. It's the new year. Set 2 is supposed to come out in March, I think. So
we're excited for set 2.
We are. We're going to try to get a local together. We haven't had a local in like a decade. The problem is, me and him are the only people in like Pennsylvania who really play. Besides the 2 other people that we forced to play with us.
So post if you're in Pennsylvania and you want to play.
Or in the South Jersey area. That's where I'm currently living. And that's one of the things, actually, we apologize that we haven't been coming out with a lot of videos lately due to scheduling conflicts, being adults and whatnot. I now work and live 2 hours away from this little guy, so...
Little guy.
Little guy, yeah. Not down there, though. They don't know that. Do they? Anyway, back on topic. So we're going to be coming out with more videos soon. Definitely some deep deck techs he wants to do. Didier's deck techs, not dick techs, deck techs. But you can message him for dick techs too. And we're going to be coming out with game matches. A lot of people have been sending us messages about doing games. So we're going to be coming out with a lot more videos in the next few months. Stay tuned.
So if you like this video, let us know by clicking that like button and click subscribe to see weekly updates for the Dragon Ball Z card game.
Done. Superstar. Crank that soldier boy. It's everywhere. Oh, I can't control it.